Log on, tune in, find out. Another good idea from Cambridge.
Let me take this opportunity before Martin will speak his words on behalf of the London Mathematical Society to show you the organizers of this program. I will say something about the program at the end of this opening, but let's connect faces to our program in alphabetic order, I should say, right? So this is Arnold Beckmann from Swansea University, Barry Cooper, who will also represent the Alan Turing year, but at the moment he is the organizer. In a few minutes he will be the Alan Turing year. And Nigel, where are you? Ah, there. Nigel Smart from Bristol. We have a fifth organizer, that's Elvira Mayordomo, who will be here for the second half of the program and can't be here today, but she sends her greetings to everyone. And with that, we start with the greetings. First, Martin Hyland from the London Mathematical Society.
Well, the London Mathematical Society is the mathematical society of this country concerned with a whole range of mathematics. Has a long history. It was founded in the 19th century. Before it was founded, in what some people think of as the dark days of English mathematics, the century after Newton, there was in fact in this country a number of very remarkable mathematical societies. And the Spitalfields Day, and this is a Spitalfields Day of the London Mathematical Society, acknowledges the work of those old societies. The aim of the Spitalfields Day is to make available to a wider audience than the participants the mathematical topics which are the subject of some major symposium or other large international meeting. So that is, it has become here in this case, this program at the Isaac Newton Institute. The Spitalfields Mathematical Society itself consisted mostly of working men from the East End of London who sought recreation in mathematics after a day's work. We have a kind of record of their activities. I mean, the first major record was actually written by the first president of the London Mathematical Society, Augustus de Morgan. It seems that for about an hour of a 3-hour meeting, there was silence kept. You would be fined if you broke the silence. And during that hour, in Augustus de Morgan's words, each man had his pipe, which you can't have in this building now, his pot, which we will have later on. That is the reason why there is a reception, and his problem, and you'll see plenty of problems, I think, today. We can't, I think, hope these days to be quite as inclusive as the old Spitalfields Mathematical Society was, but it's certainly the hope of the London Mathematical Society that today provides a way of appreciating a major programme taking part in this country, a way for non-participants in the programme to appreciate. I just close, for those of you who are kind of new to Cambridge, with a thought about culture in the 19th century and before. So the original Spitalfields Society was a society of working men, largely weavers, which was the main industry in London. And there's a curious connection which you can explore if you're in Cambridge yourself between working with your hands and mathematics, because the son of Augustus de Morgan was a famous potter, William de Morgan, part of the William Morris School. And you only have to walk over to the Fitzwilliam Museum and wander around, and you will find examples of his work. So you might think of today as somehow in that way representing a contact between mathematics and production, which we are all the time these days supposed to demonstrate.
Thank you, Martin. The next speaker is Barry Cooper, who is the chairman of the Turing Centenary Advisory Committee, the committee overseeing all of the millions of events happening in the Alan Turing year.
Well, I guess I don't need to say too much about the Alan Turing year, because most people here will know a lot about it already and will have seen on the web the sort of range of events that are involved and the activities and so on. But I guess it's fitting just to say a few things about the origins of the year and sort of what's involved and the hopes for the future. I guess we first started, I think it's fair enough to say that the Alan Turing year first started with computability in Europe, and computability in Europe was also quite new back in late 2007. I think we first started talking about this. So, and people were saying, well, 5 years away, it's too early, but it turned out to be quite good timing, and we've seen the development of this fantastic celebration over the time since 2007, and it's now come to the point where there's actually a tremendous range of events happening. Now, it's reached the point, of course, that Turing is still rather a kind of a semi-superstar, as it were. He's known within a kind of a small community, which sometimes seems to us like the whole of the world. But actually, if you talk to quite educated people outside of our community, they will not know that well who Turing is, and they will not know that much about the science that's associated with him. They'll know celebrated things about his role in the Second World War and maybe artificial intelligence and maybe foundations of the development of the computer and so on. But I think that's part of the role of the Alan Turing year is probably to take knowledge of the science and of Turing's work and so on to a wider community. Now, a feature of course, this event here in Cambridge is in some sense the centre of this whole enterprise, in the sense that mathematics is important to all these different areas of activity which Turing touched on during his short life. And although people outside will not understand very much about what we're talking about here, it is, in a sense, very much the kind of soul of the science, and is important to many of the other events that will be happening throughout the year, both scientific ones and cultural ones. Now, people sometimes say, well, why the emphasis on Turing? And it's true that science is a collective effort, and that it's in some sense a distortion to look at the contribution of one individual. But the thing about Turing is, in a sense, he's a kind of a window on a whole kind of way of looking at the science. And the way he approached the science was it was dictated by very personal interest in the world. He had a kind of project of making sense of how the world worked and how he fitted into it, and that took him into very deep scientific questions, which touched on many different areas of science and beyond. And it's this kind of involvement with the world as a kind of important thing for us to understand and to take our mathematics into, which Turing is important to us for. And so this kind of way of looking at the world, which is epitomized by Turing, is going to, the spirit of this is going to take us through this year and give us a great deal of room for thought, and hopefully bring our mathematics into a wider arena and bring it into its proper focus as something to do with the way the world works. Now, why are we having the Alan Turing year? Well, it's partly because we can achieve something through this intensive focus through this 1 year. And I think we should look to the long-term effects that this year will have. There are all sorts of things going to be happening during this year, both scientific and cultural and in the wider world, which will have a long-term effect. And I think it's probably a good idea for us to think in terms of what we're going to take forward out of the Alan Turing year. And I'm hoping that as well as scientific discoveries, we're going to see all sorts of developments within the way we look at the science and the way it develops in future years. Already we've got a new journal, the journal Computability. So there will be structural changes, there will be cultural changes, and I hope everybody will be very much involved in this process. The specific events, of course, you can go on the web and you can see those, and it's a fantastic range. And daily we're having people write to us saying, we're having a Turing event in Manila or Brazil, or just 2 days ago we heard more about the fantastic meeting in San Francisco just before the Turing centenary. There are really fantastic events, and I hope that we're all going to be very much involved with those and appreciate the excitement of this time.
Maybe you can mention the Cambridge event, the conference.
Well, Cambridge, there's a lot of things happening in Cambridge, but there is a Turing centenary conference, which will happen in June, of course. And Anuj Dua from the computer science lab here, the computer science department here, is one of the main organisers of that. And that's going to be a fantastic event. It's got a fantastic roster of speakers, and it's going to involve. It's going to be broad in the sense of Turing. It's going to bring together people from many different areas, and hopefully, I mean, one's always finding, of course. Sorry, I won't go on too long. But, one's always finding that people are touched by Turing's work in their own specific way, and that what they know about is just a particular bit of what Turing did. And I hope through this meeting in June, people are going to find out a little bit more about the other sorts of things he did. It's actually, I will just say this. It's interesting that there are probably 3 main papers which are cited thousands of times of Turing's. There's the Turing machine paper from '36. There's the artificial intelligence paper from the early '50s. And there's the morphogenesis paper. And you say to people, well, of course, a lot of people don't know that much about morphogenesis. Now you say to people, which is the most cited paper of all these famous papers? And well, they guess, first of all, they guess maybe 36. Second, they guess, well, maybe it's the artificial intelligence. Well, no, actually, it's morphogenesis. Morphogenesis is cited much more, and this is kind of typical of the sort of thing that you encounter with Turing, that there are many different areas. There are other areas besides these, of course, which Turing touched on. There's very fewer mathematics, like his work on the Riemann hypothesis and so on. We're all going to learn things, and I think it's useful to notice how fundamental thinking actually works itself out in lots of different ways. And this is one of the cultural things that we'll carry from this year.
Well, thank you very much. I should probably say a little bit about the program itself. Both for those of you who are either visiting fellows or program participants of the program, and to those of you who are just here for the day, because in addition to being a Spitalfields Day, this day is also meant to be a little bit of a teaser of for the things that we are going to do in the next 6 months. The program is called Semantics and Syntax, and we are, as organizers, we are aware that the meaning of the two words semantics and syntax is by no means very clear. We certainly found out during the refereeing process when we submitted this to the Newton Institute that the two terms are not entirely clear to all of the referees. So let me briefly tell you what our intention with these two terms was, semantics and syntax. All of the areas, the mathematical research areas involved in this program, so that is computability theory, cryptography, and logic in the wider sense, straddle this area between mathematical research and computation. And in these areas, it is quite common that you have two different modes of approach. The mathematical approach, the mathematical mode where you deal with structures, you manipulate mathematical structures. And this one could be called the semantic approach. At least we as logicians think that this is the right word for this. The semantic approach that deals with argumentation about mathematical structures, and what we call the syntactic approach, or some might call it the symbolic approach, where you manipulate not the structures, but descriptions of the structures, formulas, strings. And of course we are aware, as I said, that this is not a very crisp dividing line, that you could think of strings as structures themselves. However, what we realized in all of the areas involved, there is let's call it an empirical dividing line, or a sociological dividing line. In all of the areas involved, there is a split into two communities that can be vaguely described by either dealing with structural aspects or symbolic aspects. And so the goal of this program is to bring people together who think in these two different ways. And of course there are some people who already do that, and we try to invite people who already try to combine these two ways of thinking. And there are others who are either very strongly syntactic or symbolic, or on the other hand semantic or structural. And as you have seen when you walked in, this building is really made for interaction, so we really hope that the 6-month program will create the atmosphere. What was it, 140 square meters of blackboards? Okay. So the 140 square meters of blackboards will provide the material basis for interaction between people who think in one mode and the other mode. Well, as you see from this description, this is a very broad enterprise. It covers 3 different mathematical research areas, it covers different modes of thinking, and it will be probably more difficult than for the average Newton Institute program to bring these people together. And for that reason, we try to have something that we call the SAS seminar. So these are 2 days every week where we don't have a workshop, and all of the people, visiting fellows and program participants of the program, should give teaser talks, telling the other people who might be working in very different research areas in a 30-minute talk what they plan to do while they are here in order to create awareness of what is going on, so that people can then knock on the doors and say, I heard that you are working on this, maybe we can collaborate and solve this or that open problem in order to create breakthroughs. I think that's another word that John would like to hear. So the Newton Institute would like to see that bringing people together results in something that is essentially new, not just incremental research, but breakthroughs. Maybe I should very briefly also say something about the workshops. Because we have so many research areas involved, we also have slightly too many workshops here, I should say. There should be more time without workshops, but we have them, and I think they are all great. So we have a first workshop that is not even really institute affiliated, but will take place in this room. That is Nigel's workshop at the end of January and the beginning of February. Maybe you can say one sentence about it.
It's fully booked, so if you haven't booked now, you can't come. And this room is going to be absolutely packed. And it's going to be a meeting sponsored partly by Newton Institute, partly by the European Union via an eCrypt project, and partly by EPSRC. And it's talking about, is all this theory stuff people in cryptography do actually practically relevant? And it's going to bring in a bunch of people from industry, a bunch of academics, and we're all going to debate this with 125 people in here, apparently. There we go.
125 people in this room.
Yep.
Okay. The second workshop we have is at the end of March, organized by Arnold and Anuj. Arnold, do you want to say one sentence?
One sentence, yeah. This workshop is called Logical Approaches to Barriers in Complexity. And two, yeah. Two. There was the first workshop on a similar topic 2 years ago. Yeah, and we will have 1 week of exciting talks.
The third workshop is again organized by Nigel. That is.
Right, okay. The third workshop is organised by me and Shafi Goldwasser, who is the Rothschild, that's right, the Rothschild lecturer thingy for the programme. And this is on proofs in cryptography in all their many, many facets, from zero-knowledge proofs, PCP, provable security, formal methods, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of anything to do with the word proof.
And then in July we have a final workshop closing this program that is organized by Elvira, and it's actually doubling as the conference Complexity, Randomness, CCR. Yeah, I know. CCR. And we have 2 satellite workshops. So that's what Barry wanted to say. One in Oxford on morphogenesis. I am actually one of the organizers, but I don't want to say anything about the content because I know hardly anything about morphogenesis. So I'm only the Newton Institute contact person. The main organizers are Bernard Fiedler and Philip Miney. That will be in March. And another one at Chichley Hall organized by Barry called The Incomputable. Do you want to say something?
Well, I'll just say that incomputability I think is a theme that runs throughout Turing's work. And it's probably the least well-known of the themes that he's associated with. And it's a very technical area, and it's also a very important area for the real world, and that's what the workshop will be about. And it's also almost fully booked.
So this was a hint, right? If you want to get to this workshop, tell Barry now.
Well, any extra participants will cost us money, so we're not... only go if you want to.
Okay, so I think we have advertised the Newton Institute program very well now, and we can start with the Spitalfields